Mr. Ward, back from winter break. Despite what Tushman said, there was no clean slate when I went back to school in January. In fact, things were totally weird from the second I got to my locker in the morning. I'm next to Amos, who's always been a pretty straight up kid, and I was like, "Yo, what up?" And he basically just nodded a half hello and closed his locker door and left. I was like, okay, that was bizarre. And then I said, "Hey, what up?" to Henry, who didn't even bother half smiling but just looked away. Okay, so something's up. Dissed by 2 people in less than 5 minutes. Not that anyone's counting. I thought I'd try one more time with Tristan, and boom, same thing. He actually looked nervous, like he was afraid of talking to me. I've got a form of the plague now, is what I thought. This is Julian's payback. And that's pretty much how it went all morning. Nobody talked to me. Not true. The girls were totally normal with me. And August talked to me, of course. And actually, I have to say, both Maxes said hello, which made me feel kind of bad for never, ever hanging out with them in the 5 years I've been in their class. I hoped lunch would be better, but it wasn't. I sat down at my usual table with Luca and Aisha. I guess I thought since they weren't in the super popular group, but they were kind of middle of the road jock kids, that I'd be safe with them. But they barely nodded when I said hello. Then, when our table was called, they got their lunches and never came back. I saw them find a table way over at the other end of the cafeteria. They weren't at Julian's table, but they were near him, like on the fringe of popularity. So anyway, I'd been ditched. I knew table switching was something that happened in the 5th grade, but I never thought it would happen to me. I felt really awful at the table by myself. I felt like everyone was watching me. It also made me feel I had no friends. I decided to skip lunch and go read in the library. The war. It was Charlotte who had the inside scoop on why everyone was dissing me. I found a note inside my locker at the end of the day. "Meet me in room 301 right after school. Come by yourself. Charlotte." She was already inside the room when I walked in. "Sup?" I said. "Hey," she said. She went over to the door, looked left and right, and then closed the door and locked it from the inside. Then she turned to face me and I started biting her nail as she talked. "Look, I feel bad about what's going on and I just wanted to tell you what I know. Promise you won't tell anyone I talk to you. Promise." "So Julian had this huge holiday party over winter break," she said. "I mean, huge. My sister's friend had her sweet 16 at the same place last year. There were like 200 people there. So I mean, it's a huge place. Yeah, and well, pretty much everybody in the whole grade was there." "Not everybody," I joked. "Right, not everybody, duh. But like even parents were there, you know? Like my parents are there. You know, Julian's mum is the vice president of the school, right? So she knows a lot of people. Anyway, so basically what happened at the party was that Julian went round telling everyone that you punched him because you had emotional problems." "What?" "And that you would have gotten expelled, but his parents begged the school not to expel you." "What?" "And that none of it would have happened in the first place if Tushman hadn't forced you to be friends with Augie. He said his mum thinks that you, quote, unquote, snapped under the pressure." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "No one bought into that, right?" I said. She shrugged. "That's not even the point. The point is he's really popular. And you know, my mum heard that his mum is actually pushing the school to review Augie's application to Beecher." "Can she do that?" It's about Beecher not being an inclusive school. That's a type of school that mixes normal kids with special needs. That's just stupid. Augie doesn't have needs. "Yeah, but she's saying that if the school is changing the way they usually do things in some ways. But they're not changing anything." "Yeah, they did. Didn't you notice that they changed the theme of the New Year art show? In past years, 5th graders painted self-portraits. But this year they made us do those ridiculous self-portraits as animals. Remember? So, big frickin' deal." "I know. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that's what she's saying." I know. This is just so messed up." "I know. Anyway, Julian said that he thinks being friends with Augie is bringing you down, and that for your own good you need to stop hanging out with him so much. And if you start losing all your friends, it'll be like a big wake-up call. So basically, for your own good, he's going to stop being your friend completely. Newsflash, I stopped being his friend completely first. Yeah, but he's convinced all the boys to stop being your friend for your own good. That's why nobody's talking to you. You're talking to me? Yeah, well, this is more of a boy thing, she explained. The girls are staying neutral. Except Savannah's group, because they're going out with Julian's group. But to everybody else, this is really a boy war. I nodded. She tilted her head to one side and pouted like she felt sorry for me. Is it okay that I told you all of this, she said. Yeah, of course. I don't care who talks to me or not. I lied. This is all just so dumb, she nodded. Hey, does Augie know any of this? Of course not, at least not from me. And Summer? I don't think so. Look, I better go. Just so you know, my mum thinks Julian's mum is a total idiot. She said she thinks people like her are more concerned about what their kids' class pictures look like than doing the right thing. You heard about the photoshopping, right? Yeah, that was just sick. Totally, she answered, nodding. Anyway, I better go. I just wanted you to know what was up and stuff. Thanks, Charlotte. I'll let you know if I hear anything else, she said. Before she went out, she looked left and right outside the door to make sure no one saw her leaving. I guess even though she was neutral, she didn't want to be seen with me. Switching tables. The next day at lunch, stupid me, I sat down at the table with Tristan, Nino and Pablo. I thought maybe they were safe because they weren't considered popular, but they weren't out there playing D&D at recess either. They were sort of in-betweeners. And at first, I thought I scored because they were basically too nice not to acknowledge my presence when I walked over to the table. They all said, hey, though I could tell they looked at each other. But then the same thing happened yesterday. Our lunch table was called. They got their food and then headed towards a new table on the other side of the cafeteria. Unfortunately, Mrs. G, who was the lunch teacher that day, saw what happened and chased after them. That's not allowed, boys, she scolded them loudly. This is not that kind of school. You get right back to your table. Oh, great. Like that was going to help. Before they could be forced to sit down at the table, I got up with my tray and walked away really fast. I could hear Mrs. G call my name, but I pretended not to hear and just kept walking to the other side of the cafeteria behind the lunch counter. Sit with us, Jack. It was Summer. She and August were sitting at their table and they were both waving me over. Why didn't I sit with August the first day of school? Okay, I'm a total hypocrite, I know. That very first day of school, I remember seeing August in the cafeteria. Everybody was looking at him, talking about him. Back then, no one was used to the face or even that he was coming to Beecher. So it was a total shocker for a lot of people to see him there on the first day of school. Most kids were even afraid to get near him. So when I saw him going to the cafeteria ahead of me, I knew he'd have to know one to sit with, but I just couldn't bring myself to sit with him. I had been hanging out with him all morning long because we had so many classes together, and I guess I was just wanting a little normal life to chill with other kids. So when I saw him moved to the table on the other side of the lunch counter, I purposely found a table as far away from there as I could. I sat down with Aisha and Luca, even though I'd never met them before, and we talked about baseball the whole time, and I played basketball with them at recess. They became my lunch table from then on. I heard Summer had sat down with August, which surprised me because I knew for a fact she wasn't one of the kids that Tushman had talked about being friends with Augie. So I knew she wasn't doing it just to be nice, and that was pretty brave, I thought. So now here I was sitting with Summer and August, and they'd been totally nice to me as always. I filled them in about everything Charlotte had told me, except for the whole big part about having my snapped under the pressure of being Augie's friend, or the part about Julian's mum saying that Augie had special needs, or the part about the school board. I guess all I really told them was how Julian had a holiday party and managed to turn the whole grade against me. It just feels so weird, I said, to not have people talking to you, pretending you don't exist. Augie started smiling. You think? He said sarcastically. Welcome to my world. So here are the official sides, said Summer. At lunch the next day, she pulled out a folded piece of loose leaf paper and opened it. It had 3 columns of names. Jack sighed. Jack, August, Reed, Max G, Max W. Julian sighed. Miles, Henry, Amos, Simon, Tristan, Pablo, Nino, Isa, Luca, Jake, Toland, Roman, Ben, Emmanuel, Zeke, Tommaso. Neutrals, Malik, Remo, Jose, Leaf, Ram, Ivan, Russell. Where did you get this? Said Augie, looking over my shoulder as I read the list. Charlotte made it, Summer answered quickly. She gave it to me last period. She said she thought you should know who was on your side, Jack. Yeah, not many people, that's for sure, I said. Reed is, she said, and the 2 Maxes. Great, the nerds are on my side. Don't be mean, said Summer. I think Charlotte likes you, by the way. Yeah, I know. Are you going to ask her out? Are you kidding? I can't. Now that everybody's acting like I have the plague. The second I said it, I realised I shouldn't have said it. There was this awkward moment of silence. I looked at Augie. It's okay, he said. I knew about that. Sorry, dude, I said. I didn't know why they called it the plague, though, he said. I figured it was more like cheese touch or something. Oh, yeah, like in Diary of the Wimpy Kid, I nodded. The plague actually sounds cooler, he joked, like someone could catch the Black Death of ugliness. As he said this, he made air quotes. I think it's awful, said Summer. But Augie shrugged while taking a big sip from his juice box. Anyway, I'm not asking Charlotte out, I said. My mum thinks we're all too young to be dating anyway, she said. What if Reed asked you out? I said. Would you go? I could tell that she was surprised. No, she said. I'm just asking, I laughed. She shook her head and smiled. Why? What do you know? Nothing. I'm just asking, I said. I actually agree with my mum, she said. I do think we're too young to be dating. I mean, I just don't see what the rush is. Yeah, I agree, said August. Which is kind of a shame, you know, with all those babes who keep throwing themselves at me and stuff. He said this in such a funny way that the milk I was drinking came out my nose when I laughed, which made us all totally crack up.